In the name of Christ, who is gentle and lowly in spirit. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. The Bible has quite a lot to say about ostriches. These peculiar birds are described vividly in 10 different places in the Bible. While only found in Africa today, back in biblical times, they were very common all over the Middle East and many other places. Ostriches, as you may know, stand over 6 feet tall, and they weigh over 300 pounds. Though unable to fly, their large size and their powerful legs means that they can run over 40 miles an hour, as fast as a cheetah. The ostrich is listed in Leviticus along with the owl, the seagull, and the hawk, indicating that it was recognized as a type of bird, despite the fact that it can't fly. There and in the book of Deuteronomy, God tells the Hebrew people that they should not eat the ostrich. In Lamentations, the ostrich is used as an illustration for parents who are not kind to their children. In the book of Job, ostriches show up in 2 places. First, after Job has lost everything and is being judged by people as immoral or cursed by God, Job says he is a companion of the ostriches, probably because ostriches lived in lonely places and deserts, as though they had been exiled. That image comes up again when the prophet Jeremiah speaks against Babylon. Jeremiah exclaims, "Therefore wild animals shall live in Babylon, and ostriches shall inhabit her. She shall never again be peopled or inhabited for all generations." In our reading today, which is assigned for the feast of St. Francis, the ostrich gets 6 whole verses in a row. That's a lot of real estate in the Bible. After Job and his friends have been trying to make meaning of Job's suffering, God responds to them at length. And part of his very long response includes these words, which Carol Jean read this morning. Let's listen again. "The ostrich's wings flap wildly, though its pinions lack plumage. For it leaves its eggs on the earth and lets them be warmed by the ground, forgetting that a foot may crush them and that a wild animal may trample them. It deals cruelly with its young as though they were not its own, though its labor should be in vain. Yet it has no fear, because God has made it to forget wisdom and given it no share in understanding. When it spreads its plumes aloft, it laughs at the horse and the rider." Now, if this passage leaves you saying, "I don't get it," that's the point. Why should God make a bird that crushes its own eggs? Why would God make a bird that flaps its wings but can't fly? What is the purpose of this ostrich anyway? The point of the ostrich isn't for you to comprehend it, or to agree with it, or to like how it behaves. God made it. This desert-dwelling, unusual-looking animal whose parenting style troubles us was made by God. The same God who made you and me and bunny rabbits and golden retrievers and sea urchins, and made the Leviathan for the sport of it, and cast the stars in the sky, and numbers the hairs on your head, and is always creating, and always doing more than we can imagine or understand. Where were you when God laid the foundation of the world and made ostriches and more? That's what God is asking Job. It's not a moral argument, but it is a call to live in the world in a way that pauses before it judges. It's an invitation, at minimum, to coexist with, and beyond that, to gain appreciation and awe for all in the created order that we too easily judge as wrong or strange, or useless or unnatural or inconvenient. It's an invitation to stop with Francis of Assisi and celebrate that God is God and we are not, and to humbly ask for eyes to see and hearts to love a bigger and bigger range of the people and the animals and the elements that are all an expression of God's love and being. St. Francis was clear about this. Every being, animate or inanimate, was created from the same divine source. Brother sun, sister moon, brother wind, sister water, brother fire, mother earth, and towards the end of his life, Francis added, sister death. And because everything and everyone was created from the same divine source, Francis directed his attention to the animals and to the people judged most unlovely by society, to the poor, the outcast, including lepers in his time, who were feared and shunned by society in the Middle Ages. This brings me to two people I follow on Instagram, from whom I have learned a lot about Franciscan spirituality, even though neither of them are followers of Francis as far as I know. The first is a woman named Teresa Baker. I started following her by accident. I have a friend named Teresa Baker who moved to California a few years ago. And when I first went on Instagram and I was thinking about who I wanted to connect with, I thought of Teresa Baker. And I typed in her name. And I saw a Teresa Baker pop up with a picture of a redwood tree. And I thought, there she is. Let me follow her. And then a few weeks into following Teresa Baker, I was very glad I had. She posted calls to speak up against climate change and beautiful photos of hikes in the redwood forest and information about which camping companies were most progressive and supported anti-racist policies. This was all consonant with my experience of Teresa Baker. But as it turns out, this was not my old friend, Teresa Baker. It was a different person. It was an African-American woman about my age who works for racial equity within the outdoor equipment industry and to end the stereotype that African Americans don't like camping and being outdoors. When I learned this, I paused for a minute. The wrong Teresa Baker. But then I thought, let me keep following her. She seems really cool. And I'm very glad that I have. I had no idea how entrenched the stereotypes that she is fighting are, nor how hard it is for entrepreneurs of color to get in the door in the outdoor industries. I've learned from her about how racism shows up on hiking trails in the national parks and in the REI catalog. The other person on Instagram that I follow that I give thanks for today is a person named Jeffrey Marsh. My son pointed Jeffrey Marsh out to me when I wanted to understand more fully what it means to be non-binary and how broad the variety of ways are that people can inhabit being non-binary. Through their social media, Jeffrey Marsh is an educator and an activist, a celebrant of human diversity, and a sort of humanist pastor to people of all genders who are being labeled or scorned as the ostriches of our time. They give a beautiful pep talk almost every day to young people who've been told that they're not beautiful. And they lavish praise on cisgender people like me who are trying to get pronouns right and rethink assumptions that we've held for decades. Every time they appear in a video, Jeffrey has a new look, new makeup, new accessories, new clothes, even when they're speaking openly about very hard experiences. And by doing this, they challenge my sort of non-binary way of thinking about how people feel. They've helped me to see that people can be sad and proud, grieving and celebrating, unsettled and confident. And I'm so thankful for learning more about that. My friends, our planet and our human family bear the deep wounds of our sinful tendency to judge and to turn away from that which we cannot understand or to try to eliminate it. These evils are connected, of course. As St. Francis said, if you have people who will exclude any of God's creatures from the shelter of compassion and pity, you will have people who will deal likewise with their fellow humans. Through Christ, God seeks to lighten our load by freeing us from the illusion that we are God and therefore have the right and the ability to judge some creatures worthy and others not, to privilege some above others. Through Christ, God seeks to lighten the load of those weighed down by the judgments of this world. So let us come to Christ, all of us who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and Christ will give us rest and free us to love all that God has created in the created order, even the ostriches. As it turns out, even though they can't fly, ostriches' feathers are very useful. They use their feathers to cover their legs when it's cold at night, and they use them for courtship displays. And even though the way that ostriches deal with their eggs may look cruel to us, it's actually why the species has survived as long as it has. Female ostriches lay eggs in a dirt nest that's been prepared by the male ostrich. Several females use the same nest, but the last one to lay eggs is the dominant female, and she'll roll or kick other eggs out of the way. This has the effect of ensuring that strong genes get passed down to the next generation. Ostriches. Different. Thanks be to God.